All right, let me tell you about typical health insurance in the United States. Now, remember that there are a lot of different kinds of companies and different kinds of plans, but here's just an example of typical insurance. So, first of all, what do you need to pay for this? Because it's not usually free. You're going to need to choose some kind of plan. So, for example, there are cheaper plans and there are more expensive plans. And the amount you pay each year, even if you don't ever use it, is called a premium. So if you buy a cheaper plan, and if you're healthy and you don't have to use it very much, you'll pay less. But if you get sick and use it a lot, you'll actually pay more throughout the year. If you choose a more expensive plan and you get sick and have to use it a lot, you'll pay less throughout the year. You'll have lower co-pays, lower deductibles, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So you're probably wondering, well, what does my health insurance cover? Does it pay for everything? Well, usually you can have preventative exams and basic doctor visits for free or just for a small copay, maybe 20% of the visit. So, for example, you need an annual exam, or your child needs a physical to play sports. Maybe you need a mammogram. You want to get a flu shot or vaccine. Those are usually free. Maybe you just have, a sinus infection and you're feeling a little sick. So you visit the doctor and he gives you a prescription for an antibiotic. You might just need to pay a small copay for that. Or if your child's sick, take them to the doctor. So that's usually free or with a small copay. Well, what if you have a bigger problem? So for example, you have a serious illness, you've been sick for 6 months, you need a special kind of test, you need a diagnostic mammogram or MRI to see, what the problem is, to see if something is cancer or not, or you need stitches because you cut yourself, or you break your leg, you go to urgent care to get a cast, or you need an ambulance ride, or you're really sick and spend a few days in the hospital. These are really expensive things. So what happens here? Well, this is where the deductible comes in. So this is an amount that you need to pay first. Then after you've paid the deductible, then you pay your copay, like maybe 20% of the remaining cost. So for example, here we have the premiums, right? We have the two plans we talked about. Plan A that was a bit cheaper. Plan B that was more expensive that you pay throughout the year. Now, the cheaper plan might have a higher deductible. That means you first need to pay that amount before the insurance will start working. If you bought a more expensive plan, you'll probably have a cheaper or lower deductible to pay first, and then your insurance will start working, will kick in pretty fast. So what about like major surgeries, cancer treatments? This can cost $50,000 or more. Here's where the out-of-pocket max comes in. So, for example, for your plan, maybe you had a deductible of $1,500. If you're a single person or you have a family plan, deductible of $3,000. There's probably going to be an out-of-pocket maximum amount, and you will not need to pay more than that amount each year. Well, that's a relief. So let's just go through an example here. So let's suppose that you get an annual checkup and it costs $234, but you don't need to pay anything. Maybe this is just covered by your insurance. That would be nice. But suppose the doctor ordered a blood test as well, and that was $432, but you get the bill for $86 because maybe you have to pay a 20% copay. Then later in the year, you need to get a vaccine, maybe a tetanus booster shot because it's been 10 years, and maybe that's just free. Usually vaccines are free. And then you get stitches because you cut yourself while you're chopping onions in the kitchen, and you get the bill and it's $534, but you have to pay the entire thing. What? Remember your deductible. Maybe you have a $3,000 deductible that you need to pay first. And this type of visit to urgent care is the type that applies here with the deductible. Then you get really sick and have to spend 5 days in the hospital, which is pretty expensive. So what you need to do is pay the remaining part of your $3,000 deductible, because so far you've only paid $86 and $534. So you still have $23.80 left before you pay your $3,000 deductible. And then you have to pay the $3,000 remaining copay of what's left. So then after you get out of the hospital, maybe you have an MRI test. Maybe it costs $1,760, but you don't have to pay anything maybe because you've already hit your $6,000 out-of-pocket max. Well, that's a relief. So that's just an example of maybe how your insurance might work. So what about your insurance policy? Well, you should know these important numbers. Know what your copay or coinsurance is. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%, maybe it's $20. Know what your deductible is and know your out-of-pocket maximum. And you should also know what hospitals and doctors are in network for your insurance company, because it's going to be cheaper in the network. If you go to a doctor that's not in your network, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So for example, if your deductible is $3,000 and your out-of-pocket is $6,000, try to save this much money. So just so you know how much things cost in the United States, here are just some examples that I found on the internet, just some, averages. So as you can see, some of these types of treatments are pretty expensive. So hopefully you have good insurance that will pay for a lot of this. And remember, medical bills usually come weeks or months after, so don't be surprised. I hope you stay healthy and don't have to use your health insurance too much, but make sure to get your checkups and your exams and stay healthy.